Cool, looks like we are live. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. I'm your boy Narik Chase, and we're going to be continuing on with our daily schedule, weekly schedule of these different shows. And in this one, we're going to be featuring the third episode of Head to Head. And for those who don't know who Head to Head is, it's basically our versus channel where we talk about either actors versus actors, actresses versus actresses, franchise versus franchise, mascot versus mascot, character versus character, series versus series, just generally a versus poll show. So in this episode, of course, I wanted to go ahead and do a video on Pirates of the Caribbean, um, Hector Barbossa versus Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, for the sake of this video, we're not going to go with the whole Hector Barbossa persona that's evolved over the events of the series. We're just going to be talking about him as a villain from the first one, uh, uh, Curse of the Black Pearl. So, for those who don't know, Pirates of the Caribbean, basically about pirates. Hector Barbossa was the first villain to show up in the Curse of the Black Pearl, and Edward Teach was the villain for the fourth movie on Stranger Tides. Now, let's go ahead and just get into it. First of all, I think that the performances by both actors are just phenomenal. Jeffrey Rush plays Barbossa, and Ian McShane plays Blackbeard. I think that between the two actors, both of them definitely have had extensive careers behind them, and they just bring their air game to these characters. So in terms of like the performances and the acting themselves, I think that the portrayals were actually really good. I think the performances were actually really good. Now, we're not I'm not this isn't to say because they are in the same movie and they are portraying themselves against each other in the same movie. No, we're not going by that. But by the presence of which they bring the characters, the depth in which they bring the characters, I would actually say that I think that they do a really good job in terms of the performances. Now, the actual characters themselves, I'm kind of on the fence about. I really think that Barbossa pretty much takes it on this, and let me explain why. Because I like Barbossa's personality. He has a really good personality in Curse of the Black Pearl. He's actually an asshole, but he actually has these moments where he can be a bit fun, where he can be a bit, share some meaningful dialogue with another character. But at the same time, he can be quite vicious. He can be really ruthless. He can be merciless. Now, that's not to say that Blackbeard isn't like that too, because the entire film, you do feel the depth of Blackbeard's presence. He definitely knows how to just make everyone just shut the hell up. Sorry about that. I just got up. But he definitely has this really, really huge presence on screen, especially when he speaks. But I think I like Barbossa's personality a little bit more because he's just crazy. He has, like I said, he has these moments where he's utterly ruthless. He has these moments where he's really fun. Think about the sequence where Elizabeth Swan ends up escaping out of the cab, and then she's running around. She's looking at all of these skeleton crew on this ship, and then he come out and say, you better start believing in monsters or nightmares or something like that because you're in one. Then he's like, ha 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 ha. Like, I like moments like that with his character, especially the dialogue that he kind of has back and forth with Jack Sparrow's character. I think it's pretty fun. But and going by the characters as well. I'm sorry, guys. I need to get that checked out. But in terms of like the motivations as well, I think that again Barbossa has more. Barbossa, I think, pretty much takes it on this because if you think about it, he's a pirate, and pirates are generally assholes. And his story is there was this captain. Jack Sparrow was the captain of the Black Pearl, and Hector was his first mate. He eventually usurped control of the ship, and cast sparrows to the side, left him on this island. Then they end up going and find this big old treasure hoard, but they didn't realize that the treasure was cursed, or if they did, if they knew it was cursed, they didn't believe it. So they spend it, and then they spend pretty much years suffering from it, from hunger and thirst, as well as the loss of actual physical feeling, but always wanting to want, and that's why they have these really cool ghost forms where they look human, but in the moonlight they turn into these like skeletal forms. So basically the gist of his motivation is he wants to become human again. Because sex doesn't appeal to him, food doesn't appeal to him. They can't drink anything because it's not doing anything for them, but just make increasing that want they have for it. So like I like that motivation. Now in terms of Blackbeard, he's kind of an asshole too. I mean, he really is. But so if you're watching him, you end up finding out that there's this prophecy that says that this one-legged man is going to kill him, and he's trying to get past that. He's trying to get around that, and his motivation is he's trying to find the fountain of youth. And if he can find it, he can therefore get around his fate. Which, ironically enough, but was his search for it led him straight to it. But I'm I think in terms of the motivation, again, Barbossa definitely takes it because it's a very unique one. And even though he is a bad guy, he presents it in such a way that you actually do want him to succeed. You want him to become human again. You want this man to accomplish his goal. In terms of like Blackbeard's, I think his is, like I said, it's like more of a self interesting, but it's not like something we hadn't heard before. And it's like, why should we care that you're trying to not to die? You're trying to, break this prophecy. And it's like, ironically enough, I guess I can bring this in. Both of them do have a daughter. They do have daughters, but I don't know why that was even something worth saying, bringing up. Now I like Blackbeard's ability to use black magic. I think that's fucking awesome. The problem I had really with the movie is you didn't really see it. Like he absorb people's souls or whatever and turn them into zombies. Never actually got to see that. Never actually got to see what the best of what his crew could actually do. Again, Barbossa's side of it is he's this undead guy that in the moonlight he turns into like this skeleton, and you see his skeleton crew just going around just wiping people out, doing all this really cool and awesome stuff. And I'm on the fence about it because yes, Barbossa in the first movie was just like undead pirate, which is pretty cool, but it's not something I hadn't heard of before. But I do like the whole black magic aspect when it comes to Blackbeard. Just wish they could have did more with it. Um, I do like the personalities. I really wish the fighting style could have been a little bit better in terms of Blackbeard, but maybe that's because of Ian McShane, is kind of in age. But if you go back to the Kurtz to the Black Pearl Barbossa fight, he was fighting. He can fight. He was moving. He was jumping around doing all types of crazy stuff. um, Even if you go down to the character design, I think the character designs are actually pretty cool. How they actually managed to just do the things that they did in the movie when it came to the pirates, how the way they motivated them and stuff like that. Um, I mean, both of them have really good moments. They have really good dialogue, and that's one thing I can say is both of them have really good dialogue. There are these really cool moments where they're talking to someone or they're talking to a group of people, and they actually say some pretty meaningful stuff, or if it's not meaningful, it's like really badass. So I'm on the fence about that on them. One thing I can't, but the thing about it seems like Barbossa just has done more than Blackbeard because Blackbeard is a pretty freaking awesome character. He does what a lot of the characters in the franchise, most of the bad guys can't do, and that's actually have presence. And David Jones, Captain Salazar had presence. I mean, I guess as far as like the supernatural characters, um, and then another thing about Blackbeard is kind of like it's kind of hard to gauge him because he doesn't have much in terms of like the backstory that we've seen. I mean, both of them have run into. Well, I don't think. Yeah, both of them have, in some fashion or form, run into Jack Sparrow, and they kind of do have somewhat of a grudge to him. Just depending on. But I do think that Blackbeard was a bit more of a jackass to him. I found out it seems like every other scene he was threatening to kill him or shoot him in the face or something like that. I mean, but that's pretty much. I guess that's just like the gist of it. Like I don't understand. I mean, Blackbeard had this sword they could control the ship with. That was actually pretty cool. It didn't really. He didn't really do much with it. So I mean, that was moment where this really cool moment where he was like using the ship to. Hey, Miss Madam B, how you doing? Hey, do you have any? I'm doing this head to head, and I'm talking about Barbossa versus Blackbeard. Do you have any input to give towards that whatsoever? Oh, well, she just got up, so I just threw that. I just threw it on the spot. But I guess that's it. Normally I would have like notes and stuff right here, but I didn't. It's just like off the cuff, and it's not done well at all. But anyway, just throwing out the general idea. So I just not to ramble on anything. Guess I just cut it short. Guys, in the comment section below, let me know what are your thoughts on this episode of Head to Head. Besides being able to do it a bit better and be more organized. Do you think Hector Barbossa is better than Edward Teach, or Edward Teach is better than Hector Barbossa? Give me your points in the comment section below. I personally think that Barbossa does take the lead on this. He's a great character. He's a great bad guy. He has a lot of personality, and unfortunately, Blackbeard wasn't able to be fleshed out enough for us to actually get that full gist of his actual character, especially concerning his abilities, which I think are freaking awesome. But be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and that notification button to get the